Hey guys, my name's Nick. I'm a Microsoft Certified Expert Administrator. I create a lot of content for MSPs. In today's video, I'm going to be showcasing some of the scripts I've made here for automating the documentation of your customers' 365 tenants within Syncro. Before I get started here in today's video, if you do want to see more content around Microsoft in the MSP space, be sure to subscribe. So getting into it here, I'm really in this video just going to showcase the scripts in the sense of the output and the documents that they create within Syncro for your customers here and the 365 information I'm displaying. Really wanted to get ahead of this in the sense that looking at this information on a per customer basis or with PowerShell via a single customer is very tedious and it's very hard to keep updated with the limited time we have. So what I did here is I made some scripts that pull in this data from various facets of Microsoft, like authentication, for instance, like MFA. Also pulled in the license information, Intune information, exchange information, and the users as contacts within the customer environment here within Syncro. So going into some examples here, I want to go into the customer section. The first thing I want to show you here is the contacts. We're actually looking through all the active users in Microsoft and creating them if they are not already as contacts. We're doing that uniquely by the email address that you have on file for the contact. If it is a contact that is no longer in Office 365 but is in Syncro, then we will add a note here that says the user is no longer active. So this is just test tenant data. So you see there's just regular users here, but I've gone through and the script has actually created them as new contacts for this particular customer. And it's matched my customers from what's in Partner Center to what is in Syncro. The next one I want to showcase here is the documentation. So for certain tenants, you're obviously not going to encompass all the licensing models. There's going to be some tenants that don't utilize Intune, for instance. So as this customer here, I'm going to showcase some of the documentation that we've created here and kind of pop back and forth between different customers to show you the different data we might have. So the first report I want to show is just this active license report. And what this is doing here is it's actually looking for all the licenses that a customer may be consuming, as in all the SKUs, and then it's showing what is active, what is consumed, and what is unused within this tenant. This may be something that you use to true up the licenses before month's end billing. It is something also that you may want to share with the client to say, hey, I could save you this much money by removing these licenses from the tenant as well. Licensed users can show all active licensed users and what license they have. It's not applicable in this case for license assigned because they all have the same thing, but in some cases here, you're going to have obviously license differences in the sense that somebody might have business premium, others might have business standard. You can also see your unlicensed users. These may be stale accounts that you can identify. These also may just be the shared mailboxes or something like that that you wouldn't want to obviously license in that particular case. Next one here we'll go into is the exchange report. So for the exchange report, what we're doing here is we're looking at the mailbox size, as in how much is being consumed. If maybe a gigabyte value here, this is what I'm calculating it at. And again, this is just test data, so it doesn't look great, but in your environment, it should look something comprehensive in the sense that you could see how many gigabytes are being used in their mailbox, and it's sorted by descending order of the top used mailbox. So who has the largest mailbox and who's consuming the most. You can also show the last login time and the inbox item count here as well. Down below, we show a couple of things if it's applicable again, one of which is the mailflow rules in the tenant. So we can actually show the mailflow rules such as the encryption rules you may have applied or the do not forward to external domain rule that is pretty typical in the space for hardening of Exchange. If you have DKIM set up, you can see the configuration here for your domains. If it's not, it'll show this blank. I'll show you guys a different example with this actually set up so you can see what that looks like. ATP settings here, you're going to see that, again, the script itself will tell you if you have the applicable licensing for this. This is known as Microsoft Defender for Office 365, previously known as Advanced Threat Protection for Office 365, but it's basically telling you your settings within the tenant. So do you have SafeLink set up? Is it enabled for SharePoint Online, Teams, OneDrive for Business? And then it lists any SafeLink policies or safe attachment policies. So let's pop over to a customer that actually has this in place. And then down below, what we'll see here is we have Dkim Configuration. So you can see that I have 3 domains here. This one is set for DKIM enabled to be true. My default domain though is set to be false. So that may be something I want to take action on. We additionally see here the safe links policy, safe attachments policy that you can apply. This is more so not for a ton of metadata, but more so just to say, yep, I have set those policies in place if you're thinking about a holistic hardening checklist. The next report I want to show is related to multi-factor authentication. So I call it the authentication report because I'm also looking for conditional access policies as well as security defaults being enabled. Microsoft's kind of make MFA registration confusing over the years because they've introduced new ways in which users can register for multi-factor authentication. The ones that we're most familiar with is the legacy MFA, what I call legacy MFA, which is that portal you go in where you can see if it's disabled, enabled, or enforced. You can also do this with Microsoft PowerShell as well. The new ways of doing it, though, is a combination of security defaults being on in the tenant, and that is in all or enabled on all net new tenants as of last year. And then conditional access policies that enforce multi-factor. So saying that this is disabled isn't always a best North Star as far as a true indicator if this user is enabled for MFA, because in some cases they may have registered via this method through conditional access or through security defaults, where this still may show disabled and this may actually show true. So this is kind of the breakdown so you can see that clearly. If there is any conditional access policies here, we'll list them by name. Again, it's not necessarily for a ton of metadata. I could include metadata about the conditional access policy if you guys would find that valuable. But here I'm just saying, do we have conditional access policies? No. Do we have security defaults enabled? In this case, we don't either. And then the last one, actually, because in the space a lot of MSPs have DUO MFA set up, I set up a little script as part of this to say, look for the custom control to be in place within your conditional access policy that says register for DUO MFA or enforce DUO MFA for multi-factor, just so you can capture that as well too. It's somewhat helpful if you're using that. The final report I want to show here is related to Intune. So again, the script is intelligent enough to show, hey, it doesn't look like you have any devices and it won't actually output anything here. But it is looking at a couple of different things, and I'd love some feedback on this since Intune is so new in a lot of regards. But I basically did 3 high-level buckets here. The first of which is a compliance summary. So we are showing the devices that are in a grace period, the ones that are compliant, and the ones that aren't. This is test data again, so there's not a whole lot of devices in here, but we can see that they're all compliant. We have the devices section here, which shows us all the devices that are rolled into Intune, if they are corporate or personal, what their operating system is. This would also pick up Android or iOS as well. OS version, compliance state, user principal name, as in the user who's signing on to that device. If that device was Autopilot enrolled, this may be something where you're using the OEM provider to procure Autopilot enabled devices. And I think this is a really cool one, especially with remote work, to view that. Is encrypted is also another one if they have file vault or BitLocker on that device. The final section here is for applications. So it's looking at all the applications you've created within the Intune portal to deploy to devices. And it's looking to see if they're actually assigned. So if you see that maybe one of your apps is missing from this, I'm also looking for if it's actually assigned to at least one user or group or device. So keep that in mind. That is everything I wanted to showcase for you guys in this video today. I hope it was very helpful. I hope it creates some efficiencies in documenting for Microsoft. In subsequent videos, like I mentioned earlier, I will be going a deeper dive into each one of these scripts to kind of flesh out the unique pieces as far as any error handling you might want to pay attention to, or if you're not as familiar with PowerShell and how to read it, I will walk you through exactly what each section of the script is doing. So stay tuned for those videos, and like I mentioned earlier, do subscribe if you want to see more content around Microsoft 365 and the MSP space. Thanks guys, have a great day.